Are you buying your first condo? Here are some things that you got to keep in mind. Now, I am speaking exclusively to the resale condos out there, like the apartments that have already been built. I'm talking about the townhouse complexes that are already existing. I'm not talking necessarily to the ones that are upcoming, like the new builds. That's a completely different topic. But what I'm going to share with the people that are buying condos is just some things to keep in mind when you're buying a condo. Number one, a condo is made up of rules and regulations and financials. So you'll want to make sure that when you submit an offer on a condo that you put your condition in there for a status certificate review. And that is just for your lawyer to review the rules, the regulations, the financial health of the condo corp. The financial health has a lot to do with it, because if that condo has a very small reserve fund, meaning money in reserve in the event of any big, large capital repairs, then that money is coming right out of that reserve fund. If the reserve fund is insufficient to take on the cost of said work, then that cost is now going to be passed on to each individual owner with a special assessment. And that special assessment will differ based on the percentage of the condominium that you have, like the size. If you've got a bigger one, then you're going to have a slightly bigger special assessment. Now, what you can do is, of course, when you get the status certificate reviewed, and it can show that the reserve fund is healthy, and, you know, there may be some things that you may not expect. Maybe the entire roof of the structure needs to be changed. Something happens in the parking lot and they have to redo the entire thing. Kind of unforeseen circumstances, and the reserve fund, which looked healthy, was perhaps not that healthy. So nobody's really immune to special assessments. It is something that you have to be wary of with condos. That is a big thing that buyers are always concerned about. Now, when you look at a condo complex and you see like 3 or 4 units for sale, and there's 100 units in that particular complex, that's okay. But when you see 10 or 15, and that is a big percentage of the units of that particular complex on the market or recently sold, you have to start asking questions. Why? Why is everybody trying to get out of here? Well, quite often it's because of an upcoming special assessment, and it's not really the norm of turnover that you would see in a complex like that. These are things that you have to look out for as a buyer, and of course your realtor is there to kind of identify things like that. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is when you're buying like an apartment condo, you can't always have barbecues out there. You've got to be wary of that. A lot of people are like downsizing from, you know, a detached home and time to go into a condo. They already realize that they're going to be giving up a yard, a garden and stuff like that. They've made, you know, arrangements for their dog to, you know, maybe live with another family member. But the one thing that they don't really think about is, well, I may not have the ability to barbecue, because some condos do have that restriction. That is one thing that you have to keep in mind. The other thing that I'll share with everybody is this: when it comes to decorating the outside or putting your own kind of personality on your property, like changing the door color, maybe changing the garage color, and many condos, that is a no-no. So you can't do that. So please be mindful of all the rules, the regulations, the restrictions, and of course the financial element of the condo. Is it healthy? Do they have any lawsuits against them? What is the credibility of the property management company? Have the financials been, you know, properly managed? A lot of this stuff is just prudent due diligence that can be done ahead of time to avoid any sort of situation in the future. Like I said, you can do all of that stuff, and in the future, you may not be immune to any sort of unforeseen circumstances. That is just a risk that you take of owning a condo. Anyways, those are just some things to keep in mind when buying a condo. Hope that helps. See you guys.